Well, good evening, everyone, and hope you're well. Welcome to week 29 of Desert Island Drams. Can you believe it or not? Seems like 5 minutes ago, doesn't it, since all this started? Anyway, I'm not going to take too much of your time with an introduction this evening, because we've got a very important person waiting in the waiting room to come in and say hi. I'm delighted to say that I've twisted the arm of an old friend of mine and one of the most esteemed authors and characters in the whiskey industry, none other than Mr. Charlie Maclean. And so I'm going to bring him in just now. Charlie, how are you doing?
I'm not too bad, thanks, Eddie. No, it's great to be here. Thank you very much for your generous introduction. Yeah.
Oh, it's a pleasure, absolute pleasure. A pleasure to see you as well. It's been far too long.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember the last time I saw you. I think it might have been at our Edinburgh Festival.
I think it probably was, actually, you know, which was a great gig, that actually. It was a terrific gig. Yeah. It was divided between the Queen Street Gardens and the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, if I remember, and the tastings and drinking. Well, that's ideal, isn't it? To divide the two. No, I think that probably was the last time that we met. Yeah. I think you've got grey in your beard since I last saw you, actually.
Yeah,
I've lost a lot of hair.
Yeah, well, it comes to us in different ways, doesn't it, Charlie? It's
we just got to put up with it. Yeah,
time can be cruel. But anyway, as I say, delightful to see you. But anyway, let's get on with this broadcast, because there may be one or two people watching who don't know who you are, but God knows where they've been all this time. So why don't you? Obviously, I've introduced you, but give us a quick rundown of your summarization of your career, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, what I laughingly call my career, which has never really been planned. I'm a writer. I started writing about Scotch whisky in 1981, so I've been doing it for a long time. And really, my friends say I drink for a living, which is true. I also write about what I drink, well, sometimes. But I've written 18 books on the subject of Scotch whisky, and in recent years, I've been traveling a great deal. Obviously, not in the current situation, but really that's me. And and I've been very fortunate to be supported by the Scotch whisky industry, and without which I couldn't do my job. But I'm basically an historian, and my first degree was in art history, as a matter of fact, and so my key interests are in the history of Scotch whisky. And then I did a life-changing course in 1992 with what's now the Scotch Whisky Research Institute under the tutelage of the legendary Dr. Jim Swan in sensory evaluation. And a lot of my work now is assessing cask quality, assessing spirit quality, etc. Anyway, that's me. Is that all right, Eddie?
It's absolutely fine, Charlie. Thank you. I was expecting you to talk for a bit longer, but that's fine.
You don't get me started, man.
I wasn't prepared to be dragged back in just yet. Well, yeah, I mean, I think you do yourself a disservice. I think you're not just a writer. You've been an influence on many people's careers over your lifetime. and in your career. And certainly, I think my first meeting with you was at one of the first malt advocates course up at Lochnagar.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting in a room with yourself, Douglas Murray, and David Nicol. And the thing that I remember most is the freedom with which you allowed us to describe whiskey. Because I think we'd kind of got so set in our ways, or weren't able to really kind of bring the flavor or aromas of whiskey to life, and you very much helped all of us with that. And I think definitely a massive influence on my budding career as it was.
Oh, well, that's very kind of you. It's really, I've been in the game for so long that yes, I do have now some dear friends who are in relatively senior positions within the industry, which if you like, I helped start off, and particularly with sensory evaluation. I mentioned this this training that I had in 1992. Later in the 90s, the Malt Advocates course, which you mentioned, was hugely influential for me in terms of learning from Diageo's chemists about production and maturation. Mm-hmm. And Dave Broom and I alternated. This was an in-house. This is and still ongoing. Mm-hmm. Just started in 90. I think we're in our 22nd year or something like that. Wow. And but this is in-house. It's for distillery managers, for the folk that run the visitor centers. It's for their agencies, around the world. Occasionally, some of their distributors bring people from Sweden or Germany or America or whatever it is. It's a limited course to about, I think, maximum 12. It's usually about 10 people. Mm-hmm. Last week, it starts at Lochnagar, and then it moves to Skye or Islay and so on. And it's a really in-depth. It's not a marketing course. It's all about where flavor comes from in terms of production, in terms of maturation, and for Dave and myself, in terms of sensory evaluation, how you assess flavor. It's a world leader, and Diageo actually have taken some of it now to China, which is of course the big hope for the. But it's a very intelligent. It's called the Diageo Whisky Academy, and it's really is developing an appreciation for Scotch whisky. It's indeed, it embraces non-Scotch as well, bourbon and Japanese whiskey, but mainly focused on Scotch and indeed on Scotch malt. But it was a wonderful thing that Malt Advocate is a wonderful thing, that Malt Advocates course, and and it's gloves off. It's not flim flam.
No, definitely not.
I mean, and obviously Diageo have some sort of groundbreaking scientists, and they talk. They're not just towing a line, or Diageo speak. It's a bit of Diageo speak, but by and large, it's a very, very good course.
Yes, and they tend to be very generous with their knowledge.
And
some of it might fly over your head. In my case, you cling on to as much of it as possible. Good.
I've forgotten actually, Eddie, that you were on that course. You were very privileged actually, because you're not of you were working. Were you working for Oddbins in those days?
That's right. Yes, I was.
Yeah. And so you would be deemed to be a significant salesperson for their brand. But you were fortunate and privileged.
I feel extremely fortunate to have been allowed to take part. I mean, we didn't do the full thing, so we just did the 2 or 3 days on the Highlands.
We
didn't do Skye and Isla and all that stuff.
Yeah. It's still an invaluable introduction. You know
Exactly. Talking of influences, there's a few people who want to say hi. So Dom Roscoe watching, and Dave Worthington.
Oh God,
Shilton, Paul John, and even Mark Watt.
Oh God, yeah, that's great. I was hoping to come and see you, Mark, with some of the guys from Glen Scotia. No, it wasn't Glen Scotia. It was with David Robertson and Andy Simpson sometime this month, but it's been delayed. It's been postponed, not cancelled.
I'm sure he'll be very pleased to hear that.
Well, I hope so. The Campbelltown is one of my favourite places now.
Oh, absolutely, isn't it? It's just I so missed going there this year. But hey, that's hopefully next year. Anyway, should we talk about your first dram?
Yeah, okay. Now hold on, I need to refresh my glass. I've been at the first dram. Well, my first dram is, of course, the Adelphi blended Scotch whisky. The story behind the Adelphi was a company revived by the great grandson of not the founder, but the last owner, Jamie Walker. He revived it in 1992. And I was brought in as the nose. Now, this is an independent bottler, and obviously it still operates. Very high reputation. I still advise them. The single cask bottlings mainly, and so on. We'll talk about more about that later on. Yeah. But in regard to the blend, he borrowed some money. Jamie borrowed some money from his granny. In order to buy casks. And she said that she would lend him this money, but only on condition that he produce a blended Scotch, because she drank blended whiskey. And so the result was this. It was originally called Director's Choice or something like that, but it's now called just blended Scotch whisky. And it's made for us by by Ian McLeod and Company, Gordon Doctor, master blender, and adjusted by Jamie and myself. So I mean, I don't take credit for putting the blend together, but it just suits me down to the ground. I mean, I do get mates rates on so it makes it easier. But I think it's a lovely, easy blended Scotch whisky. Very difficult to find. You don't find it in the supermarkets. I know you can get it from Royal Malt Whiskies. You can get it online from the Adelphi, as I understand. But what's the kind of general cost, the retail price on? Do you know, I have no idea. I get mates rates. It'll be premium. It's probably about what is that? About 18 quid a bottle, something like 15 quid a bottle. I have no idea. But it's probably placed. It's probably slightly more than Grouse and Bells, but not that much more. It's not a terribly highly priced whiskey. It's a gentle. It's a premium, not a deluxe blended Scotch. But I must say, I love it. I must say, I really do.
Dr. Morgan has chimed in saying that you're glad you made it on time.
I was in touch with Nick just before, and I didn't know what time it was, to be honest. I'd been on a Zoom just prior to this, as you know, and I was an hour out, and Nick reminded me that we were about to start in about 5 minutes' time. Nick, God bless you. Thank you very much for reminding me.
Dr. Morgan, thank you for making sure he was on time. And by the way, Nick, I'm still looking for you to come on this show, by the way. We haven't had Dr. Morgan yet, Charlie.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes, you must get him on.
And given that he's just released his wonderful Johnny Walker book,
and it is a wonderful book. Wonderful book.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I got it on release date. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, but I've heard wonderful things. It looks great. Anyway, let's get on to your first track choice. So the tune that you've chosen to go with the
I have to say that that these choices were made very rapidly yesterday, I think, and these are songs that have been of influence to me. These are not necessarily my Des Dallin discs. I couldn't listen to Oh Superman forever, but but Oh Superman and Laurie Anderson indeed played a big part of my life in the late 70s. I met her actually. She was performing in Edinburgh, and indeed I was in touch with her agents because she was putting together a mega. It was called United States. It was a big show. It was going to last 20 hours or something like that, and they were going to launch it in Paris, and I was in touch with the agents to see if they would they not like to I said help them launch it in Edinburgh during the Edinburgh Festival. This must have been about 1980, I would guess, and and then so she did a show in Edinburgh about then in the Queen's Hall, which I attended, and I'd even organised that a bar be left open because it didn't finish till about 11 o'clock, and she and the band were going to come down to the bar, but unfortunately they were knackered, and because they'd been rehearsing and setting up all day. But anyway, I had the privilege of shaking her hand, as it were, and then of course she alas later married Lou Reed. So I was out of the frame of if you can cope with Lou Reed, for goodness sake.
I don't know. I reckon you could have probably drank Lou Reed under the table or something.
I couldn't do the drugs that he has.
No, but nobody could. I don't think.
But Laurie Anderson's a goddess, and I think probably not so much. I mean, to be honest, Eddie, I think that I think Joni Mitchell is probably my favorite female singer-songwriter. Mm-hmm. But Laurie Anderson, as you will know, I'm sure, was originally a performance artist, and some of the stuff that she has produced, Oh Superman was was her first sort of breakthrough. It became a popular song, and but it was groundbreaking. But it brings back bizarre memories. So let's hear it, can we?
Yeah, let's do that. See if I can get this old jalopy working. Right, here we go.
This is the hand. The hand that takes. This is the hand. The hand that takes. Here come the planes.
Now, unfortunately, we're not allowed to play more than 30 seconds, otherwise we get taken down, Charlie. So,
I mean, honestly, it's ridiculous. It goes on. They're American planes, smoking or non-smoking, and It's about America. It's about the all-embracing America. It's a subtle song. It's a repetitive song, but it's a subtle song, and that's not enough. You need to be mesmerized by it. Actually,
I feel like I would be mesmerized into a kind of.
It helps if drugs are involved, man, or a lot of whiskey.
Or a lot of whiskey, yeah. A lot of whiskey.
Yeah. But there we are. God bless her. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now listen, you've been around a bit.
Yeah, I look at you.
I was going to do the parrot joke for a second there, but I won't. Now listen, you've obviously been in some, I'm sure, some interesting situations in your time. And what I've been asking our guests to do when they come on, second question, nice and easy question, is just tell us a little story. Tell us a, one of the funniest things that's happened to you in your years of working in the whiskey industry.
No, I mean I haven't prepared this. I mean I've God. I mean most of them are unrepeatable. The one that I can't think of any. Off the top of the head, we'll need to come back to that one. Once we've had a few more drams, maybe.
Okay. Come on, drink.
Do I think? I tell you, one of the earliest memories, actually, which is quite interesting, because the sailing and the west coast of Scotland is going to come in a lot into our conversation.
Yeah,
my dad had a boat, and the sailing boat, and we used to go into Lamlash on the Isle of Arran, and there was an old boy there. He was the local JP. He was just known as Ching, and I don't even know what his name was. He was a big man, and he was just a Ching, and he was universally highly regarded. And I remember going ashore in the dinghy. And Dad had a bottle of whiskey, and we were going to visit Ching, and my father was a surgeon, and his anaesthetist was one of the regular crew men, and there was the third member of the crew was a hospital administrator. They didn't really have hospital administrators in those days, but they now, of course, proliferated, and me, the boy, the laddie. This must have been about probably going back to the late 60s, early 70s. And anyway, we went to Ching's house, and the Dad gave him this gift of a bottle of whiskey. And he did, it's the only time I've seen it done, the old traditional thing of draw the cork and throw the cork in the fire. And the bottle was just simply divided between the four, well, there were four of us. Yeah, no, five of us. 1, 2, 3. Anyway. And we had our drams, and the poor hospital administrator was overcome. He was he couldn't cope. I mean, even at the age of about whatever I'd been, about 16 or something like that. I wasn't actually pouring it into the plant pot, but I was probably drinking it very dilute and slowly, and the others were unaffected. But the poor one of the members of the crew was badly affected. But you'll have heard this old thing about throwing the cork in the fire, the old tradition.
Yes.
Drink the bottle, and
exactly.
That's the only thing I can think of.
Well, that's
memory of.
I was going to say you threw the cork, it hit the fireplace, and then ricocheted and several times around the room, and hit him on the back of the head.
Well, I can't say actually, in all honesty, that I enjoyed whiskey at that time, but it's very much an acquired taste, And
yes,
remember there's the famous line in Tunes of Glory, that wonderful film with John Mills, and by a book by James Kennaway, and made out of a book. Mills was playing the role of the colonel immediately post-war, and the peacetime colonel, and he was a fighting officer, and he was completely out of kilter with peacetime soldiering and Highland Regiment. And the immortal line was that when this young subaltern came into the mess, and he requested a glass of gin, and John Mills, the colonel, said, "There's whiskey for those who like it, and there's whiskey for those who don't like it." And that was very much the way in those days. You're too young, Eddie, but in Scots bars, I mean, the choice was, well, blended Scotch or blended Scotch, quite frankly, and and when in my early days of being able to stand up at the bar, amongst the farmers and the gamekeepers and God knows in the south end of Ireland where I was brought up, you drink, you would buy your round, you drink with the boys, and you felt privileged to be accepted as a man, if you like, even if you were only 17 or whatever it was, and you'd start with pints of beer, and then suddenly, for no particular reason, they would switch to halves, half and half, so small whiskies, and so they would just come in, and it was a bit of a test, and I didn't really necessarily like it in those days, but hey, you acquire the taste,
You drank it until you did like it.
Exactly, and that's the only way to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Okay, well let's move on to your next dram, if you're happy to do that.
What is that?
It starts with an H.
Yeah, here we are. Hallam Park. Now this is the cask strength reserve. It's called cask strength, but it's the release number 1. Yeah. So this, and it's bottled at 63.3% alcohol by volume. Now, Hallam Park is an Orkney distillery, and the overall flavor profile is maritime, and very slightly smoky. But so it's got this sort of maritime characteristic, and this is what I'm going to introduce throughout the evening. The next, it's a strong whiskey, the strength, and it benefits actually from being at higher strength than the standard bottling, which I think is 46 or something like that. It's got a bit more oomph to it, but I'm going to match it with a. What am I going to match it with, Eddie?
Let me find out for you. The Alabama 3.
Oh yeah. Now that's right. Now, this is when I start talking about the West Coast experience. I've been a sailor all my life. As I say, my dad had a small boat, and I've sailed the West Coast all my life. But since Nick will correct me, but sort of mid to late 90s, when Diageo had their classic malts cruise, and I was happy enough to go on many of those cruises. And then out of that came a group of us, whiskey people, for want of a better word, who formed the St Kilda Yacht Club. And we still meet and sail together on the West Coast. Now, we were introduced, one of our members, Richard Joynson, who was the founder of what's it called, the Lochfine whiskies in Verera, introduced us to a band called Alabama 3. Now, Alabama 3 changed our lives. There are not 3. There's about 12 of them. They don't come from Alabama. They come from Glasgow, London, etc. And it's the most wonderful band. And one of them, Mr. Seggs, is now a member of the St Kilda Yacht Club. And so this record is the only one that had a reasonable film. But of course, you're going to play 30 seconds, for goodness sake. But anyway, he'll give you a taste of Alabama 3. And I think that the Highland Park, the strength and is up to the film. We'll see.
Yeah. Well,
ain't gonna go. Yep.
Well, we ain't gonna play "Ain't Gonna Go" because it ain't working at the moment. It's decided to annoy me, so we might have to come back to it when it decides it's going to work. So what I'll do, I'll keep an eye on it. I don't know why. I think for some reason we've got very appalling Wi-Fi at the moment.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. So we'll just continue to talk while I look at that in the background and see if it's going to play for us. I
must say, I've just tasted this whiskey straight, and it is quite spiky. You know, but it delivers the full impact of Highland Park. Actually, the used to be slightly more smoky, but it has this maritime characteristic and the this light smokiness, which is very attractive. At that cast strength, at this high strength, it's got a lovely texture, a lovely mouthfeel, big oily mouthfeel.
Yes, I must admit, I love. I love most whiskies, but I love currently medium peated whiskies like Highland Park and Springbank and the like. You know, just that sprinkling of peat just to balance out the sweetness, which can sometimes be a bit overwhelming.
Well, I've got a lovely surprise for you. Alas, I don't think you've got any with you, but our last whiskey epitomizes all you're saying. You know, but no, I agree. Talisker, then Scotia, Springbank, these sort of maritime, West Coast style whiskies. Distinct character.
Yeah. Yes, not completely kind of overtaken with the peat. It just kind of brings everything into balance. Okay, it looks like my computer has decided to play ball. So let's do it before it won't do it. So where are we? I just need to add that there, and we can have our 30-second allotment.
Believe I'm gonna shut down the chakra, shift Shiva off of my shell. I take down my tie-dyes, my Tibetan bells. I cool down my karma with a kind of OPT. Ain't no call for Castaneda in my frontline library. There's one thing I know.
Oh, it's a tragedy to cut it off.
I know, but
But Nick Morgan will recall, jiving around in the cabin of Grampus, being to this and other Alabama 3 songs.
No doubt the
happy memories.
I can just imagine you lot, swaggering along to the theme tune of The Sopranos.
Well, yeah, they wrote. That's right. You're absolutely right. They wrote the theme tune of The Sopranos. But everybody armed with instruments of one sort. I don't have an instrument, but I play the spoons, and so people are beating on this, that, and the next thing. Nick plays the guitar. You know,
That's right.
honestly, well, musical cruises, great, happy memories, really.
It would have been fun to be a fly on the wall, I'm thinking.
Oh, no, thank goodness you weren't.
I suspect I would have died from the fumes. Anyway, good. Now listen, we have to talk about this current pandemic and that we've all been living through. And I know you're fed up, and we're all fed up, and we just want to get back to some kind of normality, which we may or may not do with the impending vaccines, which seem to be gathering momentum in their journey to us. So fingers crossed that all works out, because I think we've all had enough. But my question to you, Charlie, and I suspect I might know the answer to this, is what are you most looking forward to doing when restrictions have lifted to the point where you can finally meet up with people and go to your favorite restaurant or whatever it may be? Is there one particular thing that you're thoroughly looking forward to doing?
Cooking for friends. That's that's the thing I've missed most of all. Going to restaurants, yes. I gave up bars some time ago because I'm not a great beer drinker, and I'm obviously I'm more than happy to go to a bar anytime day and night, but I do miss restaurants, particularly lunchtime. But the one thing I really have missed is entertaining friends. Particularly at the weekend, Saturday, Sunday lunch, ideally lunch. And don't get me started on the way that the governments with an S have handled this. Particularly the Scottish government, I think it's outrageous. Apparently today, you can now at least get a drink with a meal in England. You can't in Scotland. It's ridiculous. So I don't want to go there, but I miss, because I do enjoy cooking, and cooking for yourself is, well, yeah, there's not much point in making too much effort. Well, I do from time to time, but I love cooking for friends, and having, particularly at lunchtime. I'm not very good on dinners now. Dinner parties. Actually, I need to keep an eye on the clock, actually, Ellie, because I go to bed at 9:30.
That's right.
I start early and finish early. Peak in time. So but I do like cooking and enjoying lunch with a few friends, and
well, I'm sure there will be a queue of people, waiting to be dined at Chez Maclean when the time arrives. Actually, my mum is watching, Louise, who is just asking, do you have a favorite dish that you like to cook, or style of
large roasts? Certainly if I'm cooking for friends, roasts. So game, beef, lamb, but that's my particular favorite is sort of Sunday lunch type thing.
Yes,
traditional things like that. I'm not terribly adventurous. My son, I have 3 boys, so you'll meet them later, and but the middle boy Jamie is a very, very good cook, and he's worked in restaurants and so on.
Brilliant.
And he produces the most wonderful exotic stuff, which it's beyond my competence, and but I can do a decent roast, and so that's what I would answer your mum.
I think Can we make a pact? Can Amanda and I come and have a Sunday lunch with you one day?
My dear boy, of course, anytime you like. And as soon when organize another gig in Edinburgh, and we'll have a proper Sunday lunch. Yeah,
that sounds good. That sounds like a lovely tonic. Good. Okay. Chilton says he's coming for some cooking classes with you.
Chilton, I can learn from you. You know, for goodness sake. I'm not that good a cook, but I can produce a pretty reasonable.
You can hold your own.
Yeah, well, in certain areas.
Let's not go there.
I love it. I mean, you know, part of a lot of what we do. I mean, all the appreciation of, you know, flavor, you know, aroma, taste, texture, the appreciation of whiskey. It takes us to food and the appreciation of food and how it's made is paralleled by, if you like, the appreciation of whiskey and the
and wine, of course.
And wine, of course. I had a visit moments before, well, half an hour before we started this, from a good friend who has just, his wife has just had a baby, and he brought along a bottle of white wine, Pouligny Montrachet.
Oh,
Wonderful an appreciation of wine. Yeah, I love it as well.
I wondered why you were in such a good mood.
Yeah, I'm articulate.
That's what fine white Burgundy will do to you. Good. Okay. Well, listen. With one eye firmly on the time, because we don't want to go past your bedtime. Let's get on to your next whiskey. Can you recall? Begins with an A, begins with a G, ends with a G.
Portaskeg.
No, begins with an A, ends with a G.
Ardbeg.
There you go.
Ah, yeah. Now this is my. I've only got a little bottle of this. But it's an Ardbeg. It's a 19-year-old. It's called Treban, or probably you say Trevania. It's a batch 21. I know nothing about it, except that this is not for resale, and it's at 46.2% alcohol. So Ardbeg, of course, Big Smoky. They do all a lot of distilleries do variations. I think this will be smoky, and the yep, and 46. It's 46.2. So it's obviously a sort of yeah, great medicinal. Again, maritime. You know, we're at the sea. Seaweed, brine, you know, the seashells, oysters. Oh, delicious. Sweet. I haven't tasted this yet. The sweet, slightly salty oysters is a good idea.
Oh, oysters is always a good idea.
Eddie, excuse me, will you? I've got to go to the somebody's at the door.
I'll
be back in 1 second.
You go and answer that door. So apparently that Ardbeg is a combination of bourbon and Oloroso sherry casks and 19 years old. This is just information I'm very quickly looking up because I thought Charlie might have more info. It's not cheap. It's 200 quid a bottle. If you can find it, it looks like it's sold out, certainly on Master of Malt. But yeah, but we all know Ardbeg, very normally very smoky, from the south of the island of Islay, one of the super islas on the south. So when you're driving from Port Ellen, you come to Lefroig first, then Lagavulin, and then Ardbeg. I mean, what a trio, really. I certainly have missed that journey and those visits this year. But like I said earlier, hopefully we'll get back to them next year. Ardbeg saw Mickey Heads, the distillery manager of, God, he must have been there 10 years at least. He was previously the distillery manager of Jura before that. But he's just retired and they have a new manager now. So all looking good. Everything all right there, Charlie?
Yeah, great. Yeah, no problem at all.
Yeah. Not Jehovah's Witnesses or something.
No, I won't say what I said to them, but it was a delivery actually.
Okay. A delivery at this time. Goodness me.
Yeah, no, they're working hard, these guys. This is a very interesting. It's a lovely whiskey.
I was just telling the viewers that it's apparently a combination of ex-bourbon and ex-Oloroso sherry casks.
Well, that may be, it may be, but pale. It's a pale color, which would suggest more bourbon, ex-bourbon, white oak.
Yeah, it does look pale from here, for sure.
You know, some maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but some Ardbegs I think are they're really a bit harsh. They're too young, and they lack complexity. This is a cracker. This is a lovely example.
Well, it wants, Charlie, it's about 200 quid a bottle.
What? This?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Seriously. I was looking it up while you were away.
I am so out of touch.
What would you pay for it?
Well, I would pay I would think about 60 quid, you know.
Mates rates. Okay, well, listen, while you're
honestly,
while you're enjoying that, why don't we talk about your next track?
Oh, your Lord, what is that?
It's
oh gosh, no.
Yes.
There must be an intro for this. One of the key members of the St Kilda Yacht Club is Richard Johnson, as I mentioned earlier, the former founder and owner of the Lochfine Whiskies. Now he lives on Lochfine, and not far from Inverara, and he's done some wonderful films of the what do they call it, start-stop films, where you filming the dawn and the sun rising over Lochfine. And this, what's it called?
Time lapse.
Exactly, time lapse. Exactly, that's the word I was looking for. And this time lapse film he puts music to what he thinks appropriate to the time lapse, and this recording and time lapse film of Gimme Shelter is just amazing, you know. And I wish we could hear the whole thing, but alas, we've only got.
I know. Well, we could, but then the police would knock on my door, and that'd be that.
Hey, run the risk.
Yeah, it's my door, not yours. Hold on, I just have to get it back here. There we go. That's it. Yeah. So I think
it's a great record, and but this interpretation of it, by the way, let alone Richard's beautiful film of is just sensational. It's so moving. I don't know how you can watch it, actually, how you can get it. Richard, if you're listening, you send out how they can look at this film. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean the problem is, Charlie, is that because he's got a Rolling Stones soundtrack, you couldn't put it on YouTube or whatever, because it would
generally, yeah.
just get banned straight away. So I suspect it's something that's just going to have to go hand to hand.
Yeah.
Unless he decides to use some different music that's copyright free. But anyway, let's have a very quick look at it ourselves. We can enjoy at least 30 seconds. I think even that we went over the allotment, but and we still didn't get to the vocals. But never mind.
We all know what the vocals are.
We do, but I've never heard that version before. I'm going to definitely look up that version because it's very.
Well,
nice.
get in touch with Richard and get the full film.
Well,
And the version is astonishing. It's absolutely amazing. The soundtrack he uses is unbelievable.
But I mean, I guess the underlining there, and with many of your track and dram choices, is really kind of highlighting the not just the beauty of whiskey, but the beauty of that west coast of Scotland, and how emotive it can be being there, drinking whiskey. You know, it's all very intoxicating and beautiful, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, one of a characteristic of whiskey is that probably of any drink, but particularly of whiskey, is that it brings back memories. I mean, and this is physiological, by the way. When you smell and taste something, or whiskey or wine or whatever it is, it can take you back to memories. It's plugged into that part of the brain which identifies memory. It's called the limbic system of the brain, and it identifies smell, smell, emotion, and long-term memory, and the three are so closely entwined, you know. And so when you smell and taste a whiskey, particularly a whiskey, I really more so than wine, actually. I mean, in my view, it can take you back to memories of, very often, actually, memories of childhood. I sit on, as you know, Eddie, a number of nosing panels, and and it's just astonishing how panelists can be taken. They can smell a whiskey, and it takes them straight back to childhood sweeties that were around in the Toffees, whatever, memories of mum's cooking, Christmas with granny or whatever it is, fire, bonfire night, etc., etc. It's potentially very emotive, and the connection, I think, between moving music and whiskey is just that. Because when you listen to Gimme Shelter, well, of course, it's all associated. As I was saying about Laurie Anderson earlier on, it's very much in my personal memory. The occasion in which, or the occasions in which I've listened to it, and the whiskey sort of can trigger these memories for good or bad, but mainly for good. The two are terribly closely associated: memory and smell. You know, smell particularly. Taste.
Yeah, absolutely. I think certainly having worked in wine as well as whiskey, you know, wine can be evocative, but I don't think it's anywhere close to whiskey. I think whiskey for me.
That's very interesting to hear you say that, because wine is not as evocative for me.
Mm.
I have the hugest respect for people who can identify wines, and you know, some dear friends who they can tell a bloody shatter, they can tell the year, you know. I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, I have an extraordinary high regard. I can't do that. But it's not as emotionally involving as whiskey, and particularly malt whiskey. It's not as emotionally involving.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Sorry, I was just making a few adjustments there. Here I am back again. Good. Okay. Well, I'm trying to think where we are. Very quick.
Where we are.
Very, very, very quickly, Charlie. Is there someone who, I know you've met and wined and dined with the best of them, but is there anyone that you didn't get to meet that you wish you had, whether culturally significant or someone, you know, family or whatever?
During this dreadful period, I don't have a television set. I don't read a newspaper, so I try and keep myself out. I get the stuff that comes online about what's going on, all the nonsense and stuff. But I bury myself in the past. And so during this recent period, I've read a biography of Horatio Nelson, a biography of John Buchan, a biography of what's his name? Barry, the Sir James Barry, the author of Peter Pan, etc. Etc. So I've been deeply involved in particularly the late 19th century, and indeed currently I've been writing a lot about blended whiskey in the late 19th century. Now, why did I say this? And what was your question, Eddie?
I was asking, is there someone you'd like to have met?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Now, so out of all that, I would love to have met Tommy Dewar. It's sticking within whiskey. I would be a bit afraid, having read Nick Morgan's wonderful book about Walker. I'd be a bit scared to have. I don't imagine he'd be a good man around the dining table, Sir Alexander Walker. But nevertheless, it'd be fascinating to meet him.
Yeah.
James Buchanan. I'd love to have met James Buchanan. Some of these, they were remarkable guys, you know, and it would be, but I think probably of all of them, I would love to have met John Buchan. He would be my choice around the table. What a sort of polymath, and what an amazing career he had, you know. And by all accounts, by every account, a really attractive, decent person, you know. A great Scot. So I think John Buchan would be currently my favorite dinner guest.
Yeah, good. Okay, well, just before we move on to your penultimate dram, Graham Fraser's asking, have you got another whiskey book in the pipeline at all?
Oh, well, yeah, I've got three during the course of this lockdown business. I've written actually 5 books, and or 4.5.
Since lockdown started.
The current one, which I haven't even suggested to my publisher yet, but it's about blended Scotch whisky, and I spent the last fortnight doing the introductory chapters, or actually just a chapter, which takes the story from, let's say, 1820 to 1900. It's about 10,000 words, and it is absolutely fascinating. And it's been a wonderful exploration for. I mean, I've written so much about everything, but this is really focusing on blended Scotch and so that's what I'm working on just now. And as I say, I don't yet have a publisher for it. I'm going to propose it to my one of my publishers, and we'll see what they say. But I'm sure but the interesting thing actually is that not a lot has been. In fact, I can't think of anything that is specifically about blended Scotch whisky. And yet, of course, as we know, blended Scotch is the backbone of the Scotch whisky industry. And I mean, I've written dozens of books about malt whisky, and many other people have written even more. And but blended Scotch is the backbone, and it's a fascinating story. It really is.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure that viewers would be very interested in reading that, so we would encourage you to put that in front of your publisher, or one of them, as soon as possible, please. Great, because it would complement Nick's book very nicely as well.
Well, I've already pillaged Nick's book for information. It's a cracking book. It's a really great book. Really great.
Yeah, absolutely. A good Christmas present for whiskey lovers as well. Good. Okay, well, let's get on to that penultimate track, because again, one eye on the time. So tell us about the next whiskey. It is the one that you thought the last one was going to be. If that's a
what are we on?
There you go.
Port Ascaigue.
Yes.
Oh, here we are. Yeah, here we are. Port Ascaigue.
Yeah.
Islay whiskey. It's a 28-year-old whiskey, this one. And again, I haven't even opened it, so I've opened it especially for this evening. It's from, what do they call themselves? The
Elixir Distillers.
Elixir, which is Secunda, isn't it? It's the...
Yes, so special. Well, Elixir is part of speciality.
Yeah, well, independent bottler with great clout. So this is a 28-year-old whiskey. Doesn't declare where it's come from. One imagines that it might have come from Kalila, but we'll see. Simply because they have the greater volume. Quite pale in color. Mild. This is quite interesting. I haven't tasted this before. It's more vanilla-like actually than I'm not getting any smoke. Smoke tends to dissipate with age, and so at 28 years old, I would expect to get a little bit in the taste, particularly the aftertaste, but
Yeah. Well, I managed to find a Port Ascaigue, but it's a wee 8-year-old, so I've minus the 20 years.
Well, go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
This will be a bit smokier than yours, I would imagine.
I think it will be.
Yes, very much so.
Oh, sweet start. 45.8% alcohol. Very, very light smoke. A very pleasant drink, but not with and perfectly matured, obviously. But the lively, but doesn't really have any clear characteristic of where it's come from. As I say, I was suspecting Kalila, because that's where they have the biggest capacity. But actually, when you add some water rather, you're getting more maritime, sort of salty notes.
Yeah.
Freshens it up.
Yeah. I have to say, I tend to find the Port Ascay releases extremely good. We had a 12-year-old autumn release for an event in October, which was just stunning. But I think even Ollie, who puts them together, would say he has his favourites. They're not always the same, are they? So
no, but that's great. They're Ollie's he's got a great nose, and
yeah, exactly.
Put them together, but they're not the same, and that's the thing. And the any whiskey, well, except for the obviously the big brands have got to, consistency is part of it, and the independent bottlers, they celebrate the differences between casks or the expressions that they release.
Yes. Well, that's part of the reason.
Very attractive whiskey. It's a very attractive whiskey. Now, what on earth do you pair with this?
Let me I'll throw it onto the screen so you can see exactly what you paired, Charlie. There you go.
Oh, Iona. Oh, this is straight back to sailing. And actually, it's quite appropriate because it's a mellow, quiet whiskey here, and a very West Coast whiskey. But it's sort of mellow and quiet. And when you hear this tune, that's also mellow and quiet.
Yes, it's very easy going.
Water.
Well, let's have a little listen to the Peace of Iona by the Waterboys.
Peace of the saints and seekers, peace of the monks and druids, peace of the resting place of kings, peace of the ruins, peace of doves in the bell tower, peace of Iona.
30 seconds is not long enough, is it?
Oh, it's awful that you can only have 30 seconds.
I know. I mean, there is a kind of loophole, if you like, but it means you either have to talk over it or sing along to it, which kind of negates the copyright side of things. But I don't know about you, but I'm not the world's best singer, so you don't want to hear that. And I don't like talking over good music as well.
I agree.
So that's what we're stuck with. Okay, Charlie, listen now. Last question for you for this evening is it's fairly straightforward, but has potentially lots of answers. But is there anything in the world of whiskey, whether it be production or parts of the world, that we haven't seen whiskey coming from? Are there any developments that are very exciting or exciting to you?
I think the most exciting things, a lot of the new and particularly the smaller distilleries, there's something like I've since 2004, something like 40 distilleries have opened. Some of them are big units, but a lot of small units. Dornach last 2 days ago, I think, we're announcing some release. The smaller ones are exploring different barley varieties. They're doing different yeasts. They're doing different, because they can't sell, because the traditional thing, as you know, is that the whiskey, the distilleries, they're making for blends. They're making for blends, and and so the production of any distillery during a year would be geared to their filling orders, the orders from their blending customers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of these new distilleries don't have access to that and don't want to have access to that. So they have to produce and sell their single malt on its own merits. Now, this is going to be quite difficult, because but in order to cut a difference between one and another, they're exploring, as I say, different sort of malts, whatever, the yeasts, whatever it is, wood, so far as they can. And this is really very, very interesting. Ultimately, there's going to be a huge competition in the marketplace, and hopefully those who produce whiskies with greater flavor will survive or indeed prevail. But it's a very difficult thing. It's a very difficult thing. I mean, we're in a very, the most interesting time in the whole of the history of Scotch whisky, actually, because there are more distilleries now. We're in a boom period, which is unprecedented in the entire history of Scotch, and the happy thing is that the entire industry has, during this COVID period, they've been in continuous production. Yeah, never closed down. So the people who the bean counters who run these distilleries, the big distilleries particularly, but also the small distilleries, they anticipate the producing spirit now will bring rewards in 5, 10, 15, 20 years time. I mean, honestly, Eddie, it's like, I mean, predicting these things is like three-dimensional chess, you know.
Yeah.
You know, the age, area. I mean, it's just impossible to judge.
Yeah.
But it is encouraging the point of view of all of us, and the people who make the whiskey, that there's so confidence. Yeah, so confident.
It's just a constant knife edge, isn't it? You know, when is enough, and when is it not enough?
Yeah.
You know, obviously in recent years where whiskey has really taken off, and you know, particularly in other parts of the world, where demand for aged expressions outstripped supply, and you know, to the point where we still have an issue with aging stock in warehouses. And obviously that's being replenished, but you know, by the time it is replenished, will that demand still be there? That's the constant worry.
I mean, you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. And you know, the industry over the centuries has generally got it right. You know, there's been some serious hiccups. But they're oh well, we can
What about were you happy to hear about the reopening of and redevelopment of Port Ellen and Brora?
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, and they from a marketing perspective, they've got great kind of value from a marketing perspective. It'd be nice to think that they produce the same quality, same style of spirit as they did previously. Obviously, it all depends on maturation, but you know, I know many of the people involved in and I know the effort that the Diageo are making into to get the spirit quality the same, and
that's right. Yeah. Okay, well, listen, we could go on about that all night, but it is getting late. So, well, let's move on to your final whiskey, if you don't mind, Charlie. Which do you want to introduce it?
Well, the trouble is that nobody will be able to. Yeah, it's sold out in about 3 days. But where do I start? The Ardnamurchan. Well, the theme of my next the next film is my boys. I have these 3 wonderful boys who rode across the Atlantic and broke all sorts of records and so on. But for charity and what have you. But their greatest supporter actually was Ardnamurchan Distillery. Well, anyway, they had a party there, and so my final whiskey is Ardnamurchan, which of course, you can't get because it sold out in about 24 hours. And but I've got a tiny drop here, which I'm going to put into my glass. And it's extraordinary that it's a very young whiskey. It's about, I think, the oldest whiskey in the batch is 6 years old. I don't know if it has even an age statement, but it's a remarkably mature. It's a very interesting example of how you can produce a really wonderful whiskey in a short time. You don't need age. If you've got the right casks. This is, I think, a bottling of 2 casks of but they're both very active casks.
I think that's what struck me, certainly during lockdown, having tasted lots of younger whiskies. We did a new Scottish distilleries tasting and pack, including half a dozen of the newest Scottish distilleries, plus Kilhoman and Daft Mill, and it was just incredible. Things like Kingsbarns and Wolfburn, and as you say, just tasting these whiskies, and they taste like they've been around a long time. They've clearly done their homework, and they've done such a good job of creating a whiskey that can be drank at 3, 4, 5 years old. It's just incredible.
I couldn't agree with you more, Eddie. Couldn't agree with you more. I mean, some of these productions from the new Borders as well, I mean, Ardbeke, I mean, I mean, young whiskies, but they are absolutely astonishing. They're lovely, lovely drinks. They really are. And what was I going to say? It's going to be a hard fight for them out in the market. But it's worth anybody listening to this tasting them.
Yes, yeah. Don't be put off by the relative young age of the distillery. Give it a try, and even even if you find it to be maybe a little bit immature, there's a reason for that. It is immature, but it's worth tasting to see how it evolves as it grows.
Eddie, to be honest, in the samples I've seen from some of these distilleries, there's no trace of their maturity, even after sort of 5 years, And in some cases, they're remarkably. I once, about it was about a month or 6 weeks ago, judged a whiskey which was only 18 months old, D-side whiskey, D-side, and I judged it at 18 years old. I mean, how creating, but of course it lacked all depth and stuff, but it had no immature characteristics.
Brilliant. Well, that's great to hear.
Anyway,
we've got to talk about your boys a bit more and have a little watch of the film.
Oh yeah. Can you get? I mean, I need to get my handkerchief.
Go and get your tissues. Have you poured yourself a whiskey? Have you got a whiskey?
Yeah, I think I've drunk it already. I've got the whiskey. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's have a look, because I know you're very proud of your boys, and rightly so. And fascinating film, I'm sure. I haven't seen all of it yet, but I'm going to. Now that I've got it, I can watch it at my leisure. So just give us a little bit of background here. I mean, obviously you can see the little bit of title here, but tell us a bit about this the film.
Well, I have three sons, and they suddenly announced that they're going to row the Atlantic, and and for charity, and it was a thing called the Talisker Atlantic Challenge. So I can understand you, as I'm sure you'll understand. I was a little bit nervous. All the three eggs in the one basket.
Yeah.
But they're incredibly physically fit and agile and so on. And then they tackled this as really methodically. I mean, in terms of their training, their diet, their blah blah blah, and the whole equipment for the boat and all that sort of stuff. But in short, they entered the competition, and as it happened, they didn't necessarily intend to win or whatever it is, but but they broke three world records.
Mm.
The first was the fastest row across the Atlantic by a trio by 6.5 days, by the way. And the second was the youngest crew, and third was something else.
No, but it must have made you extremely proud. And the lovely thing about this is the soundtrack is a song they wrote for you as well, isn't it?
I know. I mean, it's when I weep. This was written. I mean, 2 years before, or at least a year before they left, and I didn't even notice it. And I said, "Boys, that's a lovely song. What's the story behind it?" I said, when we were on Grampus, and they composed this song they hadn't got a birthday present for me, so they
wonderful. Well, let's have a little listen and watch a bit of the film. And fortunately, we don't have to switch this off at 30 seconds because
great.
So I've queued it up. Oh.
The target is boreholes for 3,000 people. Whisky has been given to us, and we are going to turn that into clean water that will save lives.
I'm going to have it running in the background there, Charlie, if that's all right. That's absolutely amazing. I mean, you must be so proud.
I know. Oh, look here. Are you going to have the thing with jumping off with?
I know the number of people we're going to help for a lifetime, and the smile on Malagasy children's faces, that makes it all worth it.
Well deserved whiskey. Very, very lovely.
Oh.
Are you all right?
Yeah.
Well done. You managed.
I think it's close to my bedtime.
Yeah.
They're extraordinarily talented boys, and yeah.
No, you have a right to be very proud, and
yeah, and they composed that when we were sailing on a Grampus about 3 years ago, and they hadn't got a birthday present. It had my birthday, and they composed that tune, and then they played it to me as a birthday present. Quite late in the night, and quite a lot of drink had been taken, and then the 2 or 3 days later, when we came ashore, and they performed it in a wee bar in oh God, I can't remember what it was, but and I said, that's an amazing tune. Wow, God, that's a wonderful tune. And they said, Dad, we played it two days ago, and
Yes.
Oh, it's a wonderful tune, really.
Yeah, it was lovely. It was really lovely. Anyway,
Yeah.
let's get you wrapped up so you can go to bed.
Yeah.
Thank you, but thank you so much for sharing that with us. That was really touching and lovely to see.
Well, it's been pleasant. It's been great.
Yeah, and you're rightly proud of your lovely boys.
Yeah.
So just very quickly, apart from thank you so much for giving us your time for and appearing on the show. It's been great fun. You're allowed one luxury to take with you.
Oh, God. Maybe I haven't thought of it.
You haven't thought of it. You shock me.
Well, sorry. Again, I'm sorry. I've got a call. I'll be back in 1 second.
Okay.
Come on now. Come on.
I think we should listen into this, folks. So we shall find out his luxury. My favourite luxury so far was Ollie Chilton's, which wasn't really Ollie Chilton's. It was his good ladies, Laura, who said he should say a bed, which I think is probably the best thing to have on a desert island, apart from the whiskey and the tunes, obviously. Do you think he's gone to bed? That would be a first, wouldn't it? A desert island dram first, a guest gone to bed in the middle of a broadcast. Next week, by the way, we have on David Stirk, who some of you may remember from the Chester Whisky Shop and the Creative Whisky Company. He's doing all sorts of things now, so he's going to be on with us next week with some. I know I've seen some quite high octane rock. It's going to be quite a different feel to the evening, I think. Charlie, welcome back.
Sorry about that. Yeah.
That's all right.
I think that I drink a lot of coffee and milk.
Okay.
And I think that probably that's not exactly a luxury, but it
will be in the desert island.
It's a very cold coffee, very cold milk, and very strong coffee.
Yeah.
So let's throw that in.
Okay. And any particular book you'd like to take with you?
Well, I'm on record as saying that my desert island book, and I'll stick with it. I can think of many others that non-whiskey, but whiskey, it would be Inez MacDonald's Whisky, 1930, which is a great book. It's a slender book, but it's rewards rereading.
Good. Okay. Well, listen, Charlie, I'm not going to keep you any longer. Once again, thank you so much. It's been lovely to see you.
And you, Eddie. It has been great.
Yeah, and just take care of yourself, and hopefully we'll get together at some point when it's safe to do so. But in the meantime, I will sign off with the traditional music and allow you to gently slope off to your bed.
What likewise. Oh, yeah, well done. You've pretty well hit the target. Yeah.
So these have been your Desert Island Drams, Charlie Maclean, and thank you once again. And we shall see you anon.
Well, it's been a pleasure, Eddie. Well done. Well done. Well organized. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Charlie. And I'll speak to you very soon. Okay.
Cheers. Cheers.